Yeah.
Game today. It's Friday.
Yes.
We ain't gotta behave too much, man. We're supposed to have a good time.
You got that right, man.
Man, we made it.
All right, brother. Well, yeah, I guess so. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate you. We'll take a second to try to shout folks out as we get going. This is episode, what is it? 7, 8? Which episode is this, Darren? 2. Okay, episode 2. Fine. Episode 2. BYOB Quarantine Snacks. We're back at it again. My name is Dennis McLeod. I'm a psychologist, and my colleague is
Dr. Jaron Jones, man of many wonders.
Absolutely.
Person of the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit give a little bit more of an introduction. We will try not to bore you guys with our introduction every time, but we got a lot of new faces. So we really want to say a few words on who we are, what we do, kind of how we got connected and why we even having an IG Live. So, like I said, I'm Dennis McLeod, Dr. McLeod. I'm a psychologist over at Vanderbilt University. Jaron and I met at the University of Florida. It's a pretty good school. It's not as good as some of the other schools that people may have heard of, but let me just check.
Ooh, wait, if we throwing out, hold on.
HBCU, this is the institution. There we go. I see some love in the corner. This school matters a lot, right? Dr. Martin Luther King, an alumnus thereof. A lot of things were started. Really important place. And Jaron, what'd you go get? Oh, is that a tiger? Is that Tiger King? What is that?
Oh, you got jokes. You know what the control is. You know North Carolina A&T. We're going back to see the interlocking.
There you go. Yeah. So
if
you in the comments, put a little fist if you went to an HBCU. We'd love to see some love for HBCUs. They help mold and shape who Jaron and I are. But nonetheless, we met at the University of Florida working on our PhDs. Like I said, myself in psychology and Jaron in leadership development. Am I correct about that, brother?
That's it, brother.
All right. So we put this together because we actually two guys who really, number one, we're extroverts. We love people, and being in the house sometimes can be really hard, not being able to connect to other people. However, we found this might be a good conduit, a good way by which we can stay connected, because social distancing does not mean social isolation. Last time we talked about quarantine snacks, really how to stay out of the kitchen, not to eat everything and just kind of get holed up and let the depression and anxiety take a hold of you. And instead, we want to find some ways that might be advantageous to help out. Jay, so what are we talking about today, man?
So today, we are essentially talking about, how do you, wait, I forgot the Instagram post because we didn't put on the show notes. That's why this is wonderful, because it's authentic and real.
It was
what's our show today?
Let's see, what's it about?
I know
about getting in the game or
on
the sideline, something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Something about getting in the game or sitting on the sidelines. How in the world?
Essentially thriving through this pandemic. It's making sure we're either in the game or, like you said, assessing ourselves to see if we need to sit on the bench and have a breather. You know what I'm saying? I think, and to be wholehearted and honest, I think that's also something that's very important for us to share with everyone. We weren't going to do another one until we got last week's content edited and posted.
Yeah.
But our wonderful partners that we have in the home noticed that on our event, when we shared our thank you a couple days yesterday, that we shared it and it didn't say that it would be next Friday. So they're wondering, are you all doing one tomorrow? And we were like, we hadn't planned on it, but we were like, you know what? Where there's a will, there's a way. If something tells you and pulls on you, if your partners are pushing it and they say, hey, do it, we listen. So we have scattered for the past 24 hours to put together, I think what is actually going to be a pretty good quarantine snack. So that's the reason why we couldn't remember the name and the title of this, but the spirit behind it is making sure we're doing goal setting. We're not wasting the time that we have. One of the things that we always say that we don't have enough of is time. So now we're in these homes, we're in our houses, in these spaces. Let's make sure that we come out of this pandemic better than when we went in.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we might not get the title right, but it'll be on the edited content we post online. But we have show notes, we had some key things to talk about, and so very excited to jump into it, man.
Yeah. So I saw Hannah joined us, Clayton joined us. Hey folks, what's up? Clayton called me out about my Bon and Vive. It's not a White Claw, it's a Bon and Vive. So the first time we did this, we talked about quarantine snacks, but also BYOB, right? Hopefully you guys are watching, drinking something. Now, let me be clear, that something doesn't have to be alcohol. That something can be water. Stay hydrated. You know, this is a little Bubba, you know, and it keeps your water nice and cold. You know, I brought some coffee, but I don't drink coffee. So I put a K-cup inside of my, okay, but Jared does. Oh, I see the lion, man. I see you flexing.
Random, you know how we do.
So, you know, donut shop K-cup. Or, because I didn't feel like making a drink tonight, I had a Bon and V. So if you guys are having a drink, I don't care if it's water, I don't know what it might be, just put it in the comments down below. News on numbers. Okay, cool. Recent news and numbers on African American. Good. I think that's something good to talk about. We'll hit that today. If we forget, please remind us. Jaron, what are you drinking today?
So I have H2O. I saw Steph put Hydration Nation. Something that's very important right now. You got to stay hydrated, not just, you know, natural, just because we would normally do that, but because just given the nature of COVID, you know, the more hydrated you are, the better you are.
Absolutely.
For those who may be around or maybe experiencing symptoms or may actually have and going through COVID right now. I see my mom put lemon water that helps to break up phlegm. You know, water, like you said, H2O mentality helps with you know, just your mental ability to thrive. Your brain can't work as good as it should if it's dehydrated. Your body doesn't respond as much as it can. Your white blood cell count is lower. So there's so many things that happen with you staying hydrated. If you're in the house, you're sitting down a lot. You know, it helps with blood flow. It helps with getting steps, because you probably got to go to the bathroom 12 times a day. So get your steps in. It also helps with weight loss, you know. And so that's the H2O side. Now, I also know it's Friday, and I'm planning on, you know, binge watching something. I've already seen, I already saw Tiger King, so I gotta find something else to binge watch. But what I'm excited about is I got my cup of coffee, man. So a little bit of coffee. I'm trying to stay away from dairy, so I have soy milk as a creamer, and a little splash of hazelnut Starbucks. So you know,
fancy.
Hey, no.
I love it, man. Well, the other thing you said.
Walmart.
Yes. Okay. Excuse me. Big time. Big money. Trying to save that big money. I hear you, brother. Yeah. One of the other things that Jaron and I share in common, and we always want to go over, because I need to check what's on his feet. We want to start from the bottom at the top. So I usually want to let him know what I'm wearing. And we're talking about basketball today. So I had to whip out an old classic.
Ooh, not the question. Ooh.
Allen Iverson questions. I don't know if you know anything about them, but that's what I got going on today, Jay. What you working with?
You asked me that I know about the Iverson question, bro. Let me tell you, he's the reason why I had cornrows between the grades of 6th grade and 11th grade.
Oh, wow.
Him and Michael Vick. So, yeah, bro, the braids is real. So, it's interesting. You're talking about some throwbacks.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to Miami LeBron. You know about these? Ooh. Yeah, LeBron Stebbins. These are without the fly knit. So these are the ones that are patched. Let me tell you about these. Remember we talked about the reason why we have a passion for shoes is because, you know, we knew once we got older, part of the reward we give to ourselves are getting those types of sneakers that we wanted. And we always knew how to take care of the old ones. I got those sneakers in 2011 from an outlet shop for $68. Wow. And it's been squeaky clean in the closet. I found out, little tip for my sneaker heads, you want to clean up your air bubble, put a little heat from a hair dryer. It will clear your bubble up. I found out on Instagram yesterday. I did it today. It worked. Okay. So let you know, you have Air Maxes, anything with an air bubble.
Yeah.
Heat from an air dryer, a little hair dryer. Clean it right on
up. Okay, next week I'll show some Air Maxes off. We'll do that for sure. So We got drinks, we got sneakers,
Yeah.
we got brief introductions. Today's talk is about whether you're on the sidelines or whether you're actually in the game. What are you going to do with being during a pandemic, during a crisis? How do you manage kind of the mental space that you have around setting goals, right? So I find that even though I'm working, Jay made a really great point about this the other day, that even though I'm working, those maybe 20 minutes I might kind of goof off at the job, I'm in my space already. So food is right here at my fingertips, or if I want to take a break to the restroom, the restroom's right here. So that's where I have actually more hours in the day to work on stuff. And my stuff might be a book. My stuff might be, I don't know, connecting with my partner. My stuff might be creating other goals that feel good. Hell, working on this podcast, for instance, is something that Jay and I've used some of our extra minutes on. So really, we want to help support people as you're in the home, and to keep yourself from going mad. If you have goals, this might not be a bad idea to sit with yourself, figure out, is this something that a time that I want to use in order to work towards some of my goals? Other folks, unfortunately, have lost their jobs, right? Some of us are at home, working from home, and are blessed to do so. And for some of us that have that benefit, also we might feel that kind of weight, the guilt of being able to work, when we know some of our friends, family, and folks we don't know might have been displaced or might not have their jobs, furloughed, what have you. So it's really important for us to have a conversation about what can you do, because when crisis hits, oftentimes it really shakes our foundations. Really, we start to hone in on what can't we do. So today we really want to look at what your goals might be, how we can support you in goal setting, and not just goal setting, right? Goal execution, and also what are the other ways, other types of support you might need during a time like this.
I love that. I love that, bro. And it's interesting too, because, even last week's topics were around the need to, go through and be in that present of emotion of this new environment, this new state of how we thrive, but then making sure we're checking in, readjusting, and then pushing forward. We can't stay in that space of the wilderness, as you might have heard. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. My mom put me on to a sermon by Pastor T.D. Jakes that talked about, in these times of wilderness, you're always looking for something to pull from the space of just unknowing. It can be uneasy, but we know, and in the work that we do in helping others and helping them to thrive, is that you have it's good. You have to be in that emotion. You have to be in it, but you also have to now say, where do I go from here? Because you don't want to relive that same feeling of being in the wilderness. And so we just started pulling together resources that we have used in the past that has helped us personally. I went through and looked through some of my old folders. Bro, I got stuff from, let's see if you see, look at that.
Oh, man.
Whoa. Yeah, so when I was back in Gainesville, I was doing some work with the UF football team. I was working with the police department with kids who were kind of going in and out of the juvenile system, trying to help them kind of reallocate where they want to go. So I did a lot of goal setting type things. But the thing that I liked about the work that I was doing with both the football team and the kids in the community is that they needed help being primed on what they wanted to do, where to put their energy, what their goals were. So what I liked about how we talked about doing this is creating a space where I have a couple of questions that can be a resource for you all as you have your time here to figure out where you go from here. Is it, do you need to stay in that space? Do you have to, rework some things, mission, vision, values, things of that nature? Or is it your time to plan and thrive? So some short-term goal setting. I know you have some great stuff on SMART goals we're going to talk about. And the way that we bounce off of each other, we'll continue to fill in, and you give your context with all the work that you do within therapy and counseling, and mine from leadership. So it is great to see it pair together. But with these questions, I'm going to go through a couple of questions. We're going to talk about each one individually. And just write these down if you're with us. We're also going, when I edit it, I'll have it, I'll have all the questions listed so we can all have them. But take some time with each individual question. We're not asking you to answer them right now, but we're kind of facilitating what you should be thinking about as you go through these questions. And then spend some time, maybe journaling. We talked about the importance of journaling, being able to write down and see your thoughts, being able to edit the things that you want to keep,
Yeah.
the things you want to leave out on the side. So with these questions, you could take hours, you could take days, you could do one question a day and just free write, and then go through and see what you keep. But we wanted to give you at least something to prime you, start thinking about where do you go from here? Is it that I need some other things I need to unpack, or am I learning that, hey, maybe fear has taken a piece of me taking that next step, and maybe this is the catalyst. The pandemic, COVID, was the catalyst for Dennis and I to finally do this.
Facts.
We have been talking for years, sharing, upset we didn't put this and push record, and here we are. And so now, as we build, as we continue to try and figure out how to create short and long-term goals and thrive, we share that with our community too, and we hope that you all continue to do that as well. So, you want to jump on the first question?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So what I ask people to do oftentimes when I'm working with people and we're starting to really delve into a new topic is to take a moment and just kind of take like an assessment of how you're doing. Right. I lead mindfulness meditations. I had to lead one earlier today. I was really grateful to do that for some people here in Nashville. And one of the things that I ask people to do is to get still. Right. I know when I was growing up as a child, my mom would talk about, being still and the impact of kind of being able to hear God. Because oftentimes when we're praying, I grew up in a Christian church, when we're praying, we always feel like we're talking. But I learned the process of like being still enough to listen. And now I don't do as much with Christianity per se, because I'm not in the church. I'm as a therapist, and those two things do go together. That's a whole different podcast. However, but I think it is important still to be able to listen to my body, listen to my brain, listen to wisdom, no matter where it comes from. So I ask folks to kind of sit in a comfortable position. Sometimes I'll ask them to close their eyes, take a few deep breaths in order to get in touch with like what is coming up. So even as we're like sitting here and Jared and I are like starting to talk about some of these topics around goal setting, take an inventory. It wouldn't hurt. Just kind of ask yourself, like Jay said, maybe write down what is coming up. What are those goals that are important to me? And what are the things that I want to be thinking about when it comes to how I want to use this pandemic to help me move forward and not backward. So the first question that Jaren talked about, these 5 key questions that help turn short-term goals into long-term solutions, is what do I believe I was put on this earth to do?
And that question was, the first question is designed to be a very big and broad question. Again, it's what do I believe I was put on this earth to do? That can be more than one thing, it can be several things. But you want to start with a very broad question and start to funnel in when you're talking about your goals. So it's, what am I looking at? What's coming up, like you said, Dennis? And now it's starting to, how do I break it down where it's step by step into actionable pieces where I'm taking baby steps? Because a lot of times we have a big goal that says, if I was put on this earth to be
a therapist,
you can also tend to feel like you can go from right there to say, well, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to go to college, I got to get in, I got to do this and third. But rather saying, okay, what kind of therapist? Why is this important to me? Where would I want to go? Where's the best program for me? And the baby steps make us not feel overwhelmed by the things that we know we're put on this earth to do. So before you go into the second question, what do I believe I was put on this earth to do? And then from that space, answer that question with the absence of fear. Because we know our brain is wired to naturally defend itself and protect itself. Yep. So immediately when you put out something that you want, your brain starts that process of making sure it's protecting itself. It's from that fight or flight, from when we had to hunt to eat to survive. And so we do the same thing with our thoughts. So without thinking about fear, what do you believe you're put on this earth to do? And again, it can be more than one thing, and usually several things that give you that personalized special story, that special something that no one else has but the world.
What I love what you're saying, man, is because the reason why I love what you're saying is because I have a personal story around what I was put on this earth to do. When I was a young kid, I was kind of interested in science. My mom kind of made me start doing this research and doing some science when I was a really young kid, around 6th, 7th grade. I went through all these science programs all the way through college, the bio major at Morehouse. And then when I finished once I got my degree, I realized this ain't it. Like, this ain't the move for me. Like this, I love people too much to sit at the bench. I love my scientists out there. Shout out to all the STEM majors and people who have degrees in science. I applaud you. Thank you for your hard work and the research that you're doing to support COVID and support people who are struggling. And I know that is not my niche. That is just not my calling. So what I had to do was I actually went on a trip to tour a university, and I met a guy there who was a scientist, but in psychology. And he asked me, like, you know, I told him, I was like, I'm kind of interested in psych. What do you think? He said, take some classes. Like, you know, just try to take some classes. I took some post-bac classes, man, and then the ball started rolling. You know, I started applying to grad school. I did a few other things. But to Jaren's point, it started with me spending 2 years working at Best Buy, not doing what I was told to do, because I was raised in a house where it was about getting a degree was about doing something that's lucrative. Like, you got to make money. I grew up in the hood. So the point is, like, get out of here, do something that makes money. And for me, science and STEM was the way to get to that. It is extremely important, but because I didn't have the privilege per se to kind of reflect on what I need or what was important to me, I missed some things. Appreciate that, Ron. So what I did once I started taking some post-bac classes, psych was easy. Like, it was something that was just really easy for me, and not easy because the classes were easy because I was tuned in.
Yeah.
And then everything else flowed from there. So I actually took a minute, like I said, working at Best Buy for a couple of years, and asked myself, what am I on this earth to do? And what I learned was I am here to connect with people, connect other people with one another, to help people further develop themselves so they can help develop others. And hey, I love my job with a real passion.
I love that. Good stuff, man. I'm glad you were able to share your story with that, because I think that's important for people to understand. You know, we're talking about, you know, these, but we're being vulnerable as well as sharing a piece of us, because also too, I think, you know, especially as people who have received advanced degrees, there's a stigma that there's something special about us that other people may not have. And the truth of the matter is, in sharing our narratives, it also helps other people to know that it's about determination. That we, you know, anyone who wants the things that they want, if you're focused enough, you can get to it. And I think one of Nietzsche's quotes is, you know, one who knows their why can overcome any how, right?
Yeah.
So sharing, we're talking and sharing our vulnerabilities, not just so you all understand that this is true, it's worked in our lives, but also hoping that other people are empowered and encouraged to understand too that, you know, you have what it takes. You know, maybe fear has just been hitting you, but take it from us, we've been knocking down doors with fear. And then when we got to the other side, realized, okay, fear never leaves. It's
Yes.
always going to be present, but you have to take action on the other side, because on the other side of fear are all your wants and needs and things that you want to do too, bro.
Absolutely.
That's crazy, because even with, you know, in my story, and, you know, what I feel like I was put on this earth to do is very similar. It's helping people. It's building people together. It's creating networks of community, of inclusion, you know, and for a long time, I wasn't sure if that's something that was lucrative. You know, if that was something that would pay for me to go to college. I didn't know. You know, all you hear, they push math, they push STEM. Again, I love our STEM folks and our first responders. We need you all. But everyone also has to recognize that maybe we don't all have to be a certain STEM related field. We also need the arts. We also need the humanities. We need the therapists. And so I knew I always loved creating inclusive environments, bro. And then it got to the point where I just say, you know what? Everything that I've allowed fear to push and set my limiting beliefs to become, I become. So how about from here on out, I set, you know, unlimited beliefs and go follow through with those.
Yeah, man. I like that. I think another major part of that is the second point that you brought up earlier, which is not just how would you like to be remembered, but again, write this down if it's helpful for you all. Number two is how would you like to be remembered? So, you know, that's such a big question. One that I think I'm finally starting to really ask myself, because now that my feet are in the field, I'm feeling good about where I am in the field. I'm licensed, all those cool things are rolling. I get to start thinking, so now what, right? I don't want my life to end and then for people to know, well, Dennis was a therapist. There's got to be more to life than this. Again, part of the Morehouse mystique, right, is what I leave behind. It's why I got this shirt on and it looks so good. But, you know, it's like, it's all about what are you leaving behind you. It does me no good in order to elevate myself if I don't bring anybody else with me. And that's, again, one of the reasons why Jared and I connected in the first place. Jay reminded me, man, this is so funny that the way we met was because I was a mentor in a program that helped transition students from wherever they were into grad school at UF, and Jay was
First
one of
generation grad students.
yeah, the Board of Education.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up mentoring Jay, which is so dope because in a lot of ways we switched roles. So Jay offered some awesome stuff to me. We exchanged stuff. But again, it's like, how do I want to be remembered? I want to be remembered as someone who helped others and who really built some connections that help people live these few years we have in our life more fulfilled in a way that really matters. And whether you're like a famous person, like the last time I was telling Jay, I gave a talk about legacy leaving, about Nipsey Hussle. That was kind of the crux. He left a lot on this earth, but you don't have to be famous to leave a legacy, right? You can leave a legacy as, you know, the best grass cutter there is. You can leave a legacy as someone someone who works, you know, anywhere. You can leave a legacy being someone who just cares for their family in a really meaningful way. You know, but the point here is to give that some thought. What do I want to leave on this earth once my body is gone?
I love that. I love that. And so now, you know, with those two questions, you know, now hopefully the juices are flowing, the dreams are flowing, you're remembering. These are the things that still eat at you in the middle of the night where you're like, I know I need to do that thing. And that thing is probably sat there for 10, 15 years. I understand. That's what Live Mighty was for me. And you just got to act on it. And every baby step is a step closer to your goal. And so one of the key things that we talked about too, you know, is the importance of our networks and our friends and so this next question is, now that you've, you know, thought about some of the things that you want to do while you're put on this earth, we want you to think about, we're talking about a video game. Well, not a video, we're talking about like basketball. So we're using that as an analogy, you know, the starting lineup. Question number 3 is, who's in your starting lineup?
Yeah.
So for that, I want you to be thinking about who are your accountability partners, who are the people that may have similar goals, who are people that may have similar goals inside your comfort zone, people that you already know, and then take it a step further and think of who could be accountability partners or mentors outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So identifying them, because maybe they're your accountability partners. Identifying mentors, those people that you're spending most of your time investing your time with, be able to document them and be intentional with that relationship. Hey, I'm friends with you because I love the way that you are motivated, and et cetera, et cetera. Let's build together, you know. And so, like, you're in my starting five, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then, you know, and that's what we do, you know. We pass the ball, we LU, LeBron, D Wade. That's what it is. We talking about the Heatles, but you know, that's the way we do it. And so thinking about, now you have a support system. That's very important. And so we just want to share this. So start thinking about who is your support system. I see Amber. What up, Amber? Glad you could join us. All right. But yeah, so that's what we're talking about when we say, you know, that starting lineup. Who are those people that are accountability partners, mentors, people? It may be people you don't know. You can research. We have all this technology in the palm of our hands, our phones. Anything we have a question for, we can either ask Google, we can go on YouTube. So, like, say if you want to be the best rapper in the world, or you want to be the first, you know, the second billionaire rapper, I don't know. Let's say you could just type in Jay-Z interviews of how he got to his success. Yeah. You have endless amounts of resources where you can listen to their stories, what they did to overcome obstacles, to kind of speed track your trajectory, so you don't have to. All right, good stuff. Sorry about that. But yeah, so just something to think about. Who's in your starting lineup?
Oh yeah, I love that a lot, man. I really think you hit the nail on the head. I see Trey's talking about, just dropped in to say, here we go.
You right?
Here we go. Here we go.
We're gonna have a party.
So, yeah. I absolutely think that's so true. The last thing I'll say on that, Jay, I really think you covered it well. It's just that the way I got to where I am today is by other people opening doors for me. You know, being prepared myself, but also, you know, as I met the right people, those doors started opening. So not only is that important because I remember how I got here, but what I mentioned before, remembering that it's my job to open doors for people who are coming behind me, to hold that door as people are walking through. So that's why I'm always searching for mentees. And it's just an important thing. You know, the higher I get up, the more privilege I have, the more I can help someone who's underprivileged. Number 4. Yes. This one I like a lot. It's around what I call committed action, which is in 3 months I will. Now I like this, and Jay's gonna have to give me a little more feedback on why 3 months, but I like that. He's really committing to some action.
Well, I know for one, anytime you want to make a desired change, you can do it for, they say, 21 days straight. But I'm under the belief that it takes a couple more days to get to the 21 days of action. So sometimes you got to prep yourself to get ready for the 21 days before it becomes a ritual, right? We know rituals are so important and key to continued success. So when I say 3 months, it gives you time and space to be present, to take enough needed time to figure out exactly what that goal is, and then take action, and also be able to look and be able to assess your results. Because halfway through a month and a half, you might be like, hey, I did really good on my workout regimen, but I definitely ate too many carbs. You know what I'm saying? So now halfway through, I can say, the next month and a half, I'm going to continue the workout regimen, and now I'm going to remove carbs. And in that 3 months, you've seen results. It gives you a halfway point. It gives you time, space. And with this pandemic, this might be around the time we can go back outside. So I'm trying to really come out of this thing better than I came in.
Yes, sir.
But, we all slacked with the summer body stuff. We did pretty good. Then this hit us, and it was like, for a lot of us. Dennis, you did pretty good. You've been running. You stayed active. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to be honest. I kind of slacked off once, it was like, don't go outside. That said reset and recharge. And so that's what it gives us that space to reset, recharge, and then continue to take action. So
yes, sir. So on that same note, so again, I just want to review for the new people who are here. Number one was, what do I believe I was put on this earth to do? Number two, how would you like to be remembered? Number three, who is in my starting lineup? Number four is where we are right now, is in 3 months I will. So one thing that Jared and I spoke about right before we started the call today was I had a patient who we were just recently talking about improving water consumption. So, doctor tells a patient, hey, you need to drink more water. All of us have heard this in some way, shape, or form. Drink more water, drink more water. And I gave this example. It's funny, my props are still here, that when I first was trying to drink more water myself, this is what I bought. I bought the Super Under Armour Supercharge. I mean, it's well rated. It's a great water bottle. I mean, I was excited about this thing. Everybody joked on me because I was walking around carrying this everywhere I went, trying to do therapy with this bottle in my hand. It was wild. It was really wild. But, and needless to say, I shouldn't say needless because some folks work with this, but for me, this was too much. I wanted my water cold, so it's super insulated. I had to have ice in it. The hose, it's just weird. It was just way too much for me to do. So this was too much. I couldn't do this. So of course, within a couple of weeks, I had failed already. Beth said she remembers that. You're right. I had it in meetings. It was weird. And then, so then I moved down, right? I tried to drink some of these. And the problem with this is it wouldn't keep my water cold. So I would drink one of these, water wasn't cold anymore, and I was short. My boy Ron said it was extra. It was extra. I was trying to meet some goals. And then the third thing I did is I landed here, right? This was 24 ounces. This to me felt doable. And this is not a prescription, right? I'm not prescribing, nor am I endorsing that you need to buy this brand or buy this one, unless they're willing to, break me off and then Bubba, come get their water bottle.
We will do sponsorships.
We'll see. We'll see about that. I'll be a brand ambassador in a minute, just like that. But anyway. So yeah, but the take home for me was I had to have a goal that made sense. So as a therapist, I got some training and I started doing a lot of research on what they call SMART goals. Now, SMART goals didn't start in the psychology realm. This is something that we borrowed from the business world. And one of these corporate finance, I think it's called Corporate Finance Institution, actually did a really good job of outlining SMART goals. And if I misspeak, please DM me. I'll be happy to give you the proper references. But the goal is that we have an acronym, SMART, and that's how we get through some of our goals. So if you want to write this down, it'll be helpful. If not, it'll be in the notes thereafter. So first, your goals have to be specific, which means they have to be well defined. At first, my goal was drink more water. That's why I grabbed this. This is more water than what I was drinking. Too much. So something that might be better might be, drink, 16 ounces of water. The second thing is that it has to be measurable, right? So it has to have specific criteria. One way that I can check back in on myself, did I meet my goal? So like I said, 16 ounces might be the move for you. If you're at 0 now, if you're at 8 now, 16 might be a goal where you can actually get a number to it.
Yeah, I think you bring a good point with the measurable piece.
Yep.
Being as specific as possible helps you to determine what you're measuring. So if your goal was, I want to drink more water, being specific could say, I want to, by the end of the day, have 64 ounces of water.
Yes.
So now when you're measurable, it's like, you have something that actionable item. Did I hit my 64? Being more specific helps you to clarify exactly where you're putting your energy. So now if you got a 24-ounce bubble,
Absolutely.
right now. Yeah. So if you have a smaller container that's 20 ounces, you can now say I got to hit at least 4 bottles of these. I have to refill this.
Right.
So that
Exactly.
helps
It becomes a way you can measure it.
Love that.
Absolutely, Jay. I see Michelle, thanks for joining us. Realistic. So it has to be, so the third one, I'm sorry, so specific, measurable, and then achievable, right? So again, this becomes the point. This was not achievable. This was too much. I could not even drink one of these a day. I was tripping. So I had to move it down, something that would make some sense for me. So the new goal might be just drink 16 ounces a day. That might be the goal that I might need right now in order to make sure I'm moving forward. Otherwise, you end up taking this with you for a couple months, and then you just drop it off and you start just drinking soda because you're tired of this thing and how heavy it is, and you look weird anyway when you're walking around with it, right? It's just a little weird. So your goal has to be specific, measurable, achievable, and then the third one, of course, is realistic. Can I do this? Is this something that can actually be done by me? And I guess I'll say a word here that kind of the A and the R are kind of the places where I park, because those are places that really help you, or really can either help you or hinder you. What's happening, Tevin? Because the achievability of a goal or how realistic a goal is, sometimes it kind of stirs the pot for people when it comes to, am I like good enough? Am I strong enough? Am I, all the questions, all the should I be drinking more water? The doctor said I should have 64 ounces, 128 ounces a day. Should I be doing more than what I'm doing right now? And the answer to that question oftentimes is start where you are. If you're at 0 ounces, drinking 2 ounces a day is many more ounces than what you were drinking beforehand. Something that's realistic, something that's achievable. Yeah. And the last thing would be something that's timely. So with the patient I mentioned earlier, you have to put a deadline on when you're doing this goal. So our goal is within the next 7 days to drink 16 ounces of water, and to do that every single day, right? So that is specific, that is measurable, that is achievable, that's realistic for that patient, and it also has a deadline. It has a time where it expires.
I like when we went over the show notes too of what we wanted to talk about in terms of SMART goals. You brought up a very good point of, so this is if coach put me in the game. These are your goals. You actual, I'm ready to, windmill this thing out the park, So now you brought up a good point. You're like, so what are some of the things in the event that you can't achieve those goals? Or you feel like, hey, I need to sit on the bench a little bit more and plan before I get out. Maybe I need some more practice. Maybe I need to prep myself a little bit more. So I like the way you talked about, giving yourself space for that. So I'm very interested and excited to hear what you're going to share with everyone around that, Dennis.
No, you're absolutely right, Jay. So that comes to like one of our last points for the day, right? Which is, we talked about goals, talked about these kind of 4 different questions that we have. We have SMART goals, and number 5 being what happens if I don't achieve that goal. And the word that comes to mind for me is kindness, compassion. A lot of folks that are watching this video got to where you are, and a lot of us might feel that we got where we are by being hard on ourselves, right? By mom being hard on us, dad being hard on us internalizing that, like learning how to be hard on myself. Oh, well, if I don't get an A, then it says something about my value. If I get an F on this paper or what have you, or even in life, right? If I turn in this assignment late to my boss, this might mean I lose my job. And if I lose my job, then I have no value, I have no worth. So kindness, compassion is extremely important in the face of not meeting a specific goal, especially because with SMART goals, specifically, you get to create your own goals. So that means if you make the goal and you don't meet the goal, guess what? You get to change the goal. So we go back to the top, back to the S, all the way back down to the T, and finding ways to ask yourself questions like, was this achievable? Was this realistic with the resources that I have currently? Was it too big a leap? Should I pull it back in some? And a post I saw recently was about, what do I do during this pandemic? Some of us might feel motivated and kind of want to really get up and do a whole lot of things, work on our fitness goals. Others of us might really need to take a break, right?
Yeah.
To sit down, to take a deep breather, realize the amount of stress and anxiety everybody's under, the amount of depression that's kind of looming in the air, right? But the point is that this all starts and kind of ends with being present with yourself, being mindful. What do I need? Asking those questions and allowing that to really guide what decisions you make.
I love that, man. And then you also, you talked about, reassessing what those goals were. So if you decide you want to take action, or you decide you took action but we didn't achieve them, reassessing, going back through and saying, what's realistic given this time frame, and it's also made me think about too, sometimes we want the timeline to be expedited. One thing that we always talk about is remembering to be present, and that it's about the journey, not the destination, right?
Yeah.
So there's a video I share. I think I shared with it might have been on my Live Mighty page, but Nas was talking about, it was an interview with Nas, and people were saying, he was saying artists today want to just go viral and just want to be, go from, I started that last year and now I'm a multimillionaire. And so talking about the thing that has made his career so fulfilling is that he needed those times of just putting in the work, of getting that, what they say, 10,000 hours to become an expert or a master in that space, and so being able to enjoy the process.
Yes.
Recognize that it's the process that primes you, that when you get to the goal, you can continue and also reach back and pull and be able to tell other people how you got there, what they can pour into their cup to get there as well. And so I just think it's very important for us to remember too, it's not going to happen overnight. If it happens overnight, usually if it's quick to gain, it's quick to lose. So, I shared a story about a bamboo, how you grow bamboo. I heard Les Brown use, and I heard other motivational speakers use, and I think it's very timely and very relevant too. A bamboo shoot, when you plant that bamboo shoot, you plant that seed, and you're watering it, you're cultivating the soil, and you're watering it. Well, it takes 2 to 3 years before it sprouts. Now, when it sprouts, it goes and gets up to 50 feet, not 50 feet, 20 feet.
Okay.
3 months. So 2 to 3 years it takes for it to break the soil, and it just shoots up. Now, it didn't take 2 to 3 months for it to shoot up and be this great. It took 2 to 3 years and the 3 months to finally see the results, right? And so that's what we got to remember too. The baby steps that we do right now, each incremental, brick by brick, as Tevin usually says, he says a lot, brick by brick, you build that up until you have a wall, and then you build another wall until you have a home. So give yourself grace and know it's many steps.
That's good. That's good. I saw a couple comments, man, that were really great. I saw one, if I can do this right. Steph mentioned in the reassessment process, you can lean on those people in your close network. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. I love how she kind of went back and tied that into what you mentioned earlier, Jay, about who's in your starting lineup. Well, those folks are there to help you, especially if things don't pan out perfectly. And then Tevin, I really love what he said, which is write your goals down in pen, but your timeline in pencil. That's dope. I might go ahead and trademark that, Tev. So yeah, that was real good. You're gonna hear that again.
Shirt. I like that.
Yeah, put it on a shirt. I'll put a little pen. We can make an emblem out. We can make some money off that. But yeah, Tev, I like that a lot. Yeah. But your goals down in pen, I love it, because your timeline will change. Like, life will happen. And to that point, I just wanted to point out that, like I mentioned earlier, my story, like how I got to psychology. When I sit down and look at my resume and look at my life, I can like retrospectively see how the pieces were aligning for me to get to where I am. I had no idea that's what was happening when I was doing what I was doing. So I think you stay diligent, find a way to continue to do things that make you feel fulfilled. And when they don't feel that way, lean on those around you. Dang, thank you for joining us, brother. Yeah, man. So good stuff, bro. I think we got some goals and
Yeah.
we got some ways to get through it and some kindness and some compassion. A little bit of everything today.
We did pretty good. Look, we were that we didn't have enough content. We didn't realize we probably had more than enough. We haven't had to stop yet because we haven't reached that hour yet. But also too, I think it's an awesome time for us to kind of check in with those who are here. If there are any questions or comments that maybe we can help. I remember earlier there was a comment that said, talking about how COVID-19 and coronavirus is affecting African Americans right now and why.
Yes.
Been seeing a lot of things that talks about the health disparities of African Americans, and we know we have things that we can work on in our community, but and we'll talk about that too. But I do want to remind our people, a lot of the things that have made health disparities have been systemic issues, like, putting us in spaces where we might not be have access to affordable health care, to proper food options, things like that. So I want us to remember to give ourselves grace and to understand that we're overcoming some systemic obstacles. But even in overcoming those obstacles, we have to do our part to make sure for what we can control, which is understanding we gotta get fit. We know what's healthy, what's unhealthy. We have to
Yes.
pull on each other to make sure that what we're doing our part to make sure we're overcoming those obstacles. So, because what we're seeing, it's a respiratory issue. So if you have things like asthma, diabetes,
COPD.
obesity, like, we know that that's what's hurting us. Also,
Yes.
even us having not having access to space. A lot of us, we might not be in that socioeconomic, we might not have the same amount of money that gives us the opportunity to be spread out. A lot
Yeah.
of people be living together. And so we're seeing, those who are affected most economically, Black and brown people of color, we're getting hit because we're close in close environments. So it's a complex thing that's going on. But I just want us to, as we continue to build, to make sure we're doing our part to change systems in our culture to give us a better probability of success and longevity of life, we also give ourselves the understanding that many of these things were part of some old way
Yeah.
of things that are still here today. So I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think that
Oh yeah.
part is being talked about at all. And so I just want to kind of put that out this week. Remember, we didn't do this to ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Very
So
true.
yeah.
Very true. So just to give a recap of what's been happening in the media for those who joined, is that there's an NPR article, they're talking about this stuff recently, about 1 in 3 people who became sick enough to require hospitalization from COVID were African American. That's about 33%, and we know that about 13 to 14% of the American population is Black folks. So therefore, we're being overrepresented in the cases of COVID. According to the CDC, the patients in about 14 states that were hospitalized in the months of March, about 33% were Black, about 45% were white. And we know that, I think it was Hispanic was about 8%, Asian about 5%, other was about 7.9%. And it's a little bit more male than female. They didn't account for other genders. But to Jaren's point, absolutely the case. Sinead made an amazing point that we have to take accountability for our health because no one else is looking out. When I think about health, because I work in an integrative medicine center, we talk about taking responsibility for your health. You being the person that's going into the doctor's office, telling doctors what you need, that does not push away the fact that there are systemic barriers that get in the way of us having healthcare in the first place, right? The ability to have insurance, having enough money, to Jaren's points. So it's both and. It's both the systemic, or the system is set up for us not to succeed, and we have to take responsibility for the things we can control. Our diets, the amount that we move, the amount of water that we consume, like Jaren mentioned earlier. There are some variables in which we can do ourselves and be able to improve our own health with or without the help of a system that was created to make us fail, at least folks who are Black and brown. So take that responsibility, the pieces of your health that you can help, do it. To Jaren's point, there are lots of disparities that get in the way of Black and brown people. We know that, the list is just humongous. Most of the ailments out there, Black folks and brown folks are more disposed to have those issues, and we don't have to keep it that way. My partner and I, we talk all the time about not eating what our parents and grandparents ate, or not exercising more than our parents and grandparents did, not because they're bad, but because they didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the access to what we have access to. So I'm planning to do better with my body than my parents, my forefathers had, and I'm hoping that folks will feel inspired to do the same thing.
Yeah, and it's okay to take the cultural relevance of some of those things and adjust them with a healthy alternative. We can still honor the stories and of grandma's cooking without the lard, without the we can do it with we can now use it with extra virgin olive oil. We don't have to use so there are ways we had a tendency to pass the memories down with the food. So there's a connection there as well. But if we can hone on the stories and the experiences and the people and the spirits that we want to remember, that never dies. That never dies. So we can make healthy alternatives, and that can be a part of the story. This passed down to grandma, but we tweaked it. But
what's happening, Howard? Thanks for joining. Steph said cauliflower, rice, and beans. Man, she made some hidden cauliflower. I thought it was rice. It was not rice. It was cauliflower. I killed it. Yeah. But I do think that we have the space for a separate episode. I hear 2 episodes coming out. One is about healthy eating and culture, and another one I hear is coming out about kind of how to tell stories and hold those stories and move them from generation to generation. Thank you, brother, for your time. We're getting close on that hour.
Yes,
you got anything else?
We love you too. Oh, thank you. Oh my God. Don't touch the mac and cheese though. Oh yeah.
Get out of here. They got vegan mac and cheese. Get out of here, man.
They do. They do. Man, we love y'all. We thank y'all for coming. Please continue to share. This might be beneficial for somebody else. We're gonna keep doing this. You all be our accountability partners as well. Thank you all for being here. Share it. Again, once we put things on YouTube and all of the spaces, if it can help anybody, we hope you all got something from it. We get something from it every time we do it because we know it's a part of our purpose and why we're doing this earth. So we just want to help, and we just thank you for joining us and being with us today.
And wait till next time.
Yeah, man. All right, Morehouse, man. Aggie Pride.
Aggie Pride. Peace.